The iPhone 16 lineup was just released, and Apple continues to claim that their Pro phones are the place to be if you're into photography and videography. Apple is trying really hard to convince everybody that supposedly these phones are professional cameras now. They are throwing around the slogan "Hollywood in your pocket." They keep showing industry professionals, and they have these very fancy sets with very pro-looking equipment in them. But all of that still left me skeptical. It doesn't matter how much you smile at me, phones still face a lot of challenges compared to proper cameras. So I bought the iPhone 16 Pro Max and took it to Malta to put exactly that to the test. Using the iPhone 16 Pro Max to take photos and videos here in Valletta was a super interesting experience because my brain still sees my phone as the pocket rectangle that gives me bursts of dopamine, but I was really impressed with the photos I got. By the way, all of the images you see in this video are shot in ProRAW on the iPhone and edited with my Cinematic Street Essentials presets in the Lightroom mobile app. This video doesn't have a sponsor and I paid for everything with my own money, so if you want to help me keep this channel running while getting some super nice tones for your images, I'm gonna leave a heavy discount at the link down in the description. Many people online said that the iPhone 16 Pro was disappointing when it was announced because it doesn't offer that many improvements over the iPhone 15 Pro. But honestly, I don't quite understand the expectations many people have. Of course, there's not going to be physics-bending improvements every 12 months. I'm going into this review as somebody who upgrades their phone every 2 or 3 years. My last phone was the standard iPhone 13, which I used a lot to film behind the scenes for videos on my channel, but the heavily processed footage coming out of the iPhone 13 always bugged me a bit. So this go around, I finally decided to take the insanely expensive plunge of buying the Pro Max because the promise of filming high quality video with the dopamine rectangle I always have with me anyways was just too enticing. Honestly, I probably didn't need to upgrade because in the 2 years of using footage from the iPhone 13 in my videos, I've only gotten a single comment saying that the video quality is bad. But then I chose to ignore that thought and spent more on a phone than some people spent on their car. The iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max have the same 3-camera system. The main 1x camera that they now call the Fusion camera is really good. As you would expect, it gets you loads of detail and the best low light performance, as well as a surprising amount of bokeh. When you get closer, you get a decent amount of natural subject separation without any portrait mode software trickery. It has their 2nd generation 48 megapixel sensor, and the Fusion part is honestly just a fancy word for them doing more software processing. If you want to, you can have gigantic 48 megapixel files and have a laugh about the fact that one single photo is 75 megabytes. But that laugh is quickly going to disappear because Apple's storage upgrades are literally the most expensive thing known to mankind. So I chose to just stick to the smaller 12 megapixel ProRAW files in the JPEG XL lossy format. 12 megapixels is more than enough resolution for me in almost all situations, and if I really need the maximum quality, I'll probably just use my camera instead. The ultra-wide camera now also sports an upgraded 48 megapixel sensor, which gets you loads of detail in good light, but they didn't increase the sensor size with this upgrade. They kept the ultra-wide sensor the same size and just crammed more pixels into that area. Unfortunately, that also means that low light performance on the ultra-wide camera still isn't great. The 5x telephoto lens is awesome. I really had a bunch of fun taking photos with it. The quality definitely isn't quite as good as the other cameras though. If you start zooming in, they lose detail pretty quickly. But still, I got some images I really like, and the 5x was kind of the most fun to use. I think simply because I just never had so much reach with a phone's camera. There's just one thing that kind of bugs me about the iPhone's cameras. There's a huge gap in focal lengths. In full frame equivalent terms, the ultra-wide camera is a 30mm lens. The main 1x camera is 24mm, which is also really wide, and the telephoto is 120mm. I'd argue that the entire range that we're missing there between 24 and 120mm is the range that most photographers use like 95% of the time. Personally, I could spend the rest of my life with a classic 24-70 lens and be pretty happy, but we'd probably have to adopt. There is one solution. You can use the 2x mode, which I actually ended up using a lot, but it's not ideal because it crops the main sensor. The images are still 12 megapixels, but definitely lose some fidelity. Here's my suggestion to Apple, not that they care in the slightest about my ideas, or would even make the mistake of watching my channel. Even though the 5x camera is super fun, I would trade it for like a 55mm lens that has the same sensor size as the main camera. That would be really cool and I would use the crap out of that. But in general, it's super cool to have 3 different focal lengths in your pocket at all times, because we're all like really addicted to our phones, but like in a fun way. The ProRAW files from all 3 cameras are awesome. Standard iPhone images really don't edit well because they have a bunch of processing baked in that you can't get rid of, but with the ProRAW images you get a lot of flexibility, as you would with a normal camera producing RAW files. The files edit very nicely in Lightroom. You just have to make sure you select the ProRAW color profile, otherwise they turn out really dark and the colors are all wonky. But let's talk about Apple's answer to people not liking the camera standard processing: photographic styles. Apple would never admit that people didn't like something they made, but they basically said, okay, you don't like what we're doing here, then just like adjust it yourself. You get a bunch of different styles to choose from, which you can then adjust the tonality and color of. The big thing about these is that you can use them non-destructively, so you can change the style later on. In the end, this can give you a bunch of different looks, which is super cool, but they still have a pretty iPhone-y look to them. I feel like the end results still fall well within the processed iPhone look, but I did quite like the gold style and especially the black and white ones. But I didn't end up using the photographic styles much because I simply enjoy shooting RAW and editing in Lightroom using my presets just like I would with any other camera. But of course that's a very subjective workflow decision and I can see people using these a lot once they've gotten a look they like dialed in. Okay, let's finally talk about it. The button. Well, it's actually called camera control and I was extremely excited about it, but honestly, I had such a hard time forming my thoughts about this. On the one hand, it's awesome because it allows you to extremely quickly open the camera. Just one press and you can instantly start taking photos, no matter if your phone is locked or you're doing something in an app. But on the other hand, everything else about camera control just feels, I don't know, I really wanted to like it and I was really excited about having a dedicated shutter button on a phone, but I just could not get used to it. The position feels really awkward to me and changing settings using the gestures on it looks cool, but is pretty fiddly and slow. I wish they had positioned it further towards the bottom. It would feel so much more natural if it was like right here. I think they wanted to position it further up so you can still use it when taking vertical photos, but that just feels very weird because it feels like you're holding the phone a lot less secure in your hand, especially on the huge and heavy Pro Max. Pressing to take a photo also takes a fair bit of force and introduces much more shake than pressing the screen. In the end, I'm just gonna use it as a camera shortcut button. Video on the iPhone 16 Pro is really good. You've already seen a bunch of clips in this video so far, unless you skipped the entire video until this point. In that case, I'm gonna have to place you in Monopoly jail. Honestly, I was shocked how good the video from the iPhone 16 Pro looks. When shooting in ProRes and Apple Log, you get footage that feels much more like it came out of a mirrorless camera than out of a phone. Shooting in Apple Log cuts out pretty much all of the processing that always bothered me on standard iPhone footage. The way highlights and shadows act feels much more natural, and it integrates really well into professional workflows. I can use pretty much the exact same color grading workflow with the iPhone footage in DaVinci Resolve as I would with footage from a Sony camera or even my Red. These are very challenging scenes for any camera really. Extremely bright sunlight spilling into narrow and dark alleyways between tall buildings. I have to say, I'm really surprised how well Apple Log handles these scenes and how well the footage responds to color grading. One big new addition to the iPhone 16 Pro is 4K at 120 FPS for some beautiful slow motion. Maybe I should fill my bank account with it so the money leaves less quickly. You can only use it on the main 1X camera, but it's honestly insane for a phone, and it's super impressive that you can record it in ProRes and Apple Log, and the resulting footage just looks so good. I've already done a whole video comparing the 4K 120 footage from the iPhone to my Red Cinema camera. I'm gonna leave a link up here in the corner if you're interested. I would definitely recommend you get a third-party app for video. I used the Blackmagic camera app pretty much this entire trip. It allows you to really dial in all of your settings, and most importantly allows you to shoot in lower bitrate ProRes codecs. I mostly filmed in ProRes 422 LT for much smaller file sizes. Fun fact, 4K 120 in the highest quality ProRes 422 HQ codec needs almost 6 GB for a 15-second clip. Yeah. Found that out the hard way. The Blackmagic camera app also allows you to film 4K 60 and 4K 120 internally without the use of an external SSD, which the standard camera app doesn't allow. Pro tip, you can bind the action button to quickly launch the Blackmagic camera app. Okay, I haven't really tested the new audio mix features yet, so I'm just gonna talk about a few more thoughts and you tell me if they sound any good.
So, am I just going to throw all of my cameras in the trash and only use my iPhone? Probably not, because I'm just in too deep at this point. But I'm really looking forward to using it to film behind the scenes for this channel, and especially to film when I'm traveling, because that's really what I bought it for. In a professional setting, I really don't think we're going to see Hollywood change to all iPhones anytime soon, because there's really no reason for them to do that. But I think we're going to see a lot more iPhone footage in places like documentary work, because if you have it with you anyways, I think people are a lot more inclined to just pull it out and maybe get a second or third angle with the phone, especially when they know that they can integrate that into their workflow just like they would with any other camera. Also, I think these Pro iPhones are going to replace proper cameras for a lot of hobby photographers.
Maybe you have like an older DSLR that you're just too lazy to carry around, which I totally understand. Then the iPhone is like a really good alternative to that, because you still get the flexibility in post, you still get really good quality,
but you just don't have to think about it, and you don't have to carry like 3 kilograms of camera with you everywhere.
Apple is notorious for putting walls everywhere and blocking users from, pretty much whatever they feel like. But with the camera on these Pro iPhones, Apple really made it a point to give you a ton of control and integrate well into professional workflows. And that's what turns these modern Pro iPhones into, and I don't use this word lightly, game changers. Should you upgrade from the iPhone 15 Pro? Probably not, but if you're on an older standard iPhone like I was, the upgrade is well worth it. Finally having USB-C and a 120Hz screen is so nice. The ProRAW photos are really good, and ProRes video with Apple Log just blew me out of the water. And you know what else is gonna blow you out of the water? My recent video comparing the iPhone 16 Pro Max to my Red Cinema camera. I compared the 4K 120 footage head to head, and the results really shocked me. Okay, that's it. See you in the next one. Bye bye.